Free kisses.
And now, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Everardo Gonzalez. That is Reverend Everardo Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you. Just at the feng shui. First of all, thank you, Scott, for such a great meditation, and we're definitely going to raise the veil today. My name is Ev, and I am a dream builder, just like everyone in this space is. And I know that because we can connect, and we know that we are possible. And just by coming here every Sunday, we hold that as our truth. So there was once a little girl who was curious about life. She wanted to know where humans came from. So she goes to the father and she asks, "Daddy, do you know where humans come from?" And the father says, "Well, of course they do. They come from Adam and Eve." So the little girl's not sure whether to trust the father or not. So she runs to the mother and she asks, "Mommy, do you know where humans come from?" And the mother responds, "Of course I do, sweetie. They come from monkeys and apes." And the little girl is confused. She's not sure whether to trust the mother or trust the father. So she runs back to the father and says, "Daddy, Mommy said that humans come from monkeys and apes. Is that true?" And the father leans over and says, "Oh, honey, of course that's true. Your mother's side of the family comes from monkeys and apes." So within that story, we can probably find some humor in that story, but at the same time, we can connect to that story because oftentimes we go to our parents because we trust what our parents have to say. Sometimes we trust what our friends have to say. Sometimes we trust what we hear on the news, what we read on Facebook, what we hear on Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. So basically, what we're looking for is some sort of connection. And that connection comes from what we choose to believe, which is our beliefs. And it's so easy for us to connect when we like something, right? Or when we love being with somebody, or when we love something that we hear, or when we're in a great position in our life. It's easy to trust, it's easy to connect. At the same time, what do we do when we don't like something that we hear, something that we don't like, or when we're around people that we don't like to be with, or when we're in a situation where it's a fearful moment in our life, whether it's a challenge? Oftentimes, we disconnect. And we disconnect because we feel uncomfortable, we feel uncertain, we feel doubtful, and maybe even more fear. So, what are we trusting about ourselves or not trusting about ourselves today? Do we even trust ourselves? Oprah Winfrey says that in order for us to become an expert in anything, we must invest 1,000 hours on that task so that we can become experts. So I don't know about you, but I have definitely mastered and invested 1,000 hours not trusting. So you're probably sitting in your seats right now like, "Oh my gosh, wait a minute. We have a speaker who is an expert on not trusting, talking about trusting?" I find humor in that as well. But I know that each opportunity of not trusting, each moment of not trusting over and over has led me to a big reason to trust. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to share the message of trust and know that we are possible. So how do we get from not trusting to trusting? Well, let's start from the beginning. oftentimes it takes just one idea, one limited idea that prevents us from trusting. That limited idea was not born today. It was born somewhere in our past. Do you resonate with that? And that idea, we tend to carry it with us, especially in those transitional moments in our life, such as getting a new job or getting a new opportunity, something great that's going to happen. That thought comes to visit us. Sometimes it even visits us when we're in that challenge of fear, when we're trying to figure out how to pay the next bill, or loss of a relationship, or a loss of a loved one, such as a pet, or when we're in that fear that we're trying to understand what it is. So, what is that visitor? That visitor, at least for me, maybe some of us can resonate with that same visitor, because it's very popular. That visitor is, I am not good enough. And maybe some of us have the cousin who comes to visit us, like, I am not worthy, I am not valuable, I am not lovable, I am not successful enough. So, where I accumulated those hours of not trusting, for me, it happened during those awkward adolescent years. We can probably relate to those adolescent years when our body's going through all these changes, our mind is going through all these changes, and we're trying to figure out or understand what that means. At the same time, the world is trying to figure out what that means. I mean, one morning I woke up and I was like, whoa, what is that? What is this? What is this? What is this? And what I can tell you is that the girls, they really wanted to get to know me. They really loved me. If they only knew, I'm just saying. If only I knew. If only I knew. The boys, on the other hand, they wanted to take me down. And they did. And I allowed them because I didn't know any better, and they didn't know any better. And I remember one of those episodes. And my friends. I had no friends because they deserted me. They didn't want to be associated with someone who was being bullied. So I felt alone, solitude, depressed, nowhere to go, and all those feelings. And I remember one of those episodes that I had, one day I decided, okay, how am I going to avoid these kids? So I decided to leave school early. I decided that I was going to find a different path so I wouldn't have to deal with those individuals. So I'm thinking, great. So I'm leaving school with my backpack, and as I'm carrying my backpack, I notice that there's these kids, like maybe a block away, and they're carrying these baseball bats. And I'm thinking, oh, great! They're going to baseball practice. They're going to leave me alone today. Fantastic! Wow. So as I'm adjusting my backpack, I hear this rumbling, and it's kids running, chanting. And I turn around, and it's them. They're not going to baseball practice. They're coming after me. So I'm running with my book bag, and my book bag weighs like 25 pounds, but it feels like it's 100 pounds. My heart is beating and beating, and out of nowhere, I feel a bat swinging, and it's swinging right on my book bag. And in that moment, I knew it was that moment that would define why I'm here. In that moment, I dropped my backpack. I ran faster. The kids tripped on the backpack. I keep running faster and faster because I have no backpack to carry. And I see through the corner of my eye, there's a bus coming. So I run towards the bus. I hop on the bus, knowing that my house is right there. I get on the bus. I'm looking for change in my pockets, but I can't find any change because I used it all for my lunch money. The woman in front, she sees that what's happening outside, so she's looking through her change purse. She looks through her change purse, she gets the money, she puts it in the meter, and then the bus takes off. I go to the back of the bus, and I have my head down, and I'm just fearful, with nowhere to go. And in that darkness, I feel like I didn't know who to trust, like I had any way out, like I had anywhere to go to or like I had any purpose. And maybe some of us can relate to not that experience itself, but to those feelings. When we get in a situation in our life, when we don't know how we're going to get out there, how we're going to get out of that situation, how we're going to find a solution so that we don't have to feel that way anymore, how we're going to resolve the situation we're in. We feel stuck, we feel alone, we feel disconnected, we feel like we can't trust anyone. And at times, in those dark times, it's hard to even know that there is a God present. We probably don't even trust God. I know I didn't. I sat in the back of the bus with my tears, with those feelings and energy. And I remember saying, if there is God, show me one reason why I should live. That one reason, that one idea that I was looking for of why I should trust, birth in the midst of all that darkness. My little sister was born. When she was born, it was more than one reason. And this is how my thoughts looked like. From not knowing that I was possible to knowing the infinite possibilities. Here it goes. I wonder what she's going to be like when she learns how to walk. I wonder what she will be like when she learns how to speak. I wonder how she would be like when she goes to school. I wonder what kind of mother she would become. I wonder what kind of woman she would become. And as I'm thinking about all these possibilities of her, I'm like, wow, that means I'm possible too. If she's possible, I'm possible too. So the first time I was able to feel, to connect, to trust. And this is how I knew I trusted, because I knew I had a purpose. And this is what the purpose looked like. I started to change her diaper. I started to comb her hair. I even made her clothes. And I taught her how to ride her bike. And I even showed her how to read. And I saw the woman that she became and is becoming. So I guess there is a God. Maybe it's not the God that we imagine coming from the clouds to save our day. Because I definitely had more episodes after that one. And that was not what God looked like. So what is God? The reason why it's important to define what God is for us is so that we're able to connect and so that we're able to trust. So what we share here as a community, as a New Thought spiritual community, is that God is our source. So what is source? Source is the supply of divine ideas. A divine idea are those ideas that are indestructible, that are eternal, that sustains life and life afterwards. That one idea that I can connect to right now is love. So love is that divine idea that we have the ability to express. So if we say, well, if that's true, and we say that God is everywhere, sure, it's easy for us to say, God is in those happy moments in our life, right? God is in my little sister, right? But how can we say that God is in the turmoil that we experience, or that God is in those children with the baseball bats? To this day, I can tell you that I love those kids with the baseball bats, not because of what they did to me, but I love them because of what they helped me understand. They helped me understand what God is, and God is that love. So if I can see love in them, I can know what our power is as children of God. What I learned from the children, both the children with the baseball bats and my sister, is that what is in front of us does not define us. Only we have that power to give meaning to our ideas, to our relationships, to our circumstances, to our shortcomings, our high comings. Only we have that power. And how do I know? Because I know that we can think divine ideas, I know that we can feel divine ideas, and I know that we can be divine ideas. That's how I know. And I hold that as our truth. So what would the Bible have to say about that? So out of my favorite Bible, the Apple iTunes library. From the Gospel of Beyonce. I'm sorry, that's the wrong scripture. From the Gospel of Rihanna, she says in her song, "We found love in a hopeless state." Wow, how profound. We found love in a hopeless state. Well, I think there's so much truth to that, because without a villain, there is no hero. And without them both, there is no story to tell. And if there's no story to tell, then what purpose do we have to express love and other divine ideas? In a different scripture from our brother JC, not from Brooklyn, the one from Nazareth. In the parable of a mustard seed, he says, if we have faith as small as a mustard seed, we can move a mountain. Wow. Wow. So what the Bible doesn't share with us, and what's often left out, is that during the time that scripture was written, a mustard seed was considered a weed. So it's considered a weed. And for us gardeners who are in the house today, we know what a weed is. It's something that we don't want in our garden. It's something that we don't want in our mind. So a weed, metaphysically, what a weed represents is a marginalized idea. It's a limited idea. So, if we were to reinterpret that passage or that message, we would say, wow, there is potential in a limited idea. That's pretty profound. So can you imagine when you have that fearful thought of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy or valuable enough, that there is potential in that. Powerful, right? So what I want you to do right now is think of that one idea that you're holding on to, whether it's a dream or whether it's a weed. And think of that idea, and let's not give it fear, but let's give it our own power, like love. Let's give it some joy. Let's give it some enthusiasm. We want to give our power instead of watching that weed wither away. We want to understand it. So, if we think about it, most of the time when we're trying to manifest something in our life, or when we're trying to create some sort of change, we have a time clock. We want that job to come to us right now. We want that bill to be paid right now. We want this to happen right now. But it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes there's a setback, or it's taking a little longer. But that setback is not really a setback. It's giving us more time to expand our greatness. One example is a great example that I can think of, which is one of the greatest presidents that we've ever had. He had gone through so many rejections becoming president. But what happened is that each time that he had a rejection, it led him to create a network of people. It allowed him to build compassion of his message. It allowed him to build his legend and the story that he would leave behind. And that president is Abraham Lincoln. And what's so beautiful about his story is that his story is still with us. It's on that one penny. His image of himself is on that penny. But even better, the image of his message is on that penny. It says, "In God we trust." So if we were to redefine that, if we choose to, we can say that in supply of divine ideas we trust. Wow. In the supply of divine ideas we trust. And because we define what God is for us, then it's easy for us to make it more attainable, to believe, to trust that the essence and the presence of God is everywhere. Another great example would be J.K. Rowling. She went through a multitude of rejections, but each rejection led her to the dynamic legacy that she has today. And what's so beautiful about her story is that she's at the palace of all dreams. She is a dream builder. How amazing is that? So as we go today or through our week, just know that you are possible, that we have the ability to connect. And I invite you to stand. And just take a nice deep breath. And as we connect as a community, I want to connect by affirming, we are possible.
We are possible.
Now, I'm not sure if I believe that or not, so let's add a little bit more love into that. Let's add some enthusiasm into that. Let's add some power into that. Ready? 1, 2, and 3.
We are possible.
Great. So now hold that energy and know that energy, that connection, does not come from the outer, it came from you. It came from within. So place your hands on your heart and know in a quiet, still voice, and this time affirm in your own quiet voice, I am possible. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.